Have you noticed that happiness doesn't choose easy days to appear? It needs to be built exactly when everything seems to fall apart. Today you're going to learn the system Napoleon Hill taught to maintain inner peace even when the external world is on fire. This isn't motivational theory, it's an emotional discipline protocol. If you're ready to stop being hostage to circumstances, like this video and subscribe to the Spoken Word Society channel. Let's begin. Happiness doesn't fall from the sky. It's not a gift handed to the fortunate or a privilege reserved for those living easy lives. Napoleon Hill discovered something that most people spend their entire existence denying. Happiness is a skill, and like any skill worth mastering, it demands training, repetition, and above all, discipline. When everything inside you screams to give up, the world has sold you a dangerous lie. The idea that happiness arrives when conditions align perfectly, when problems dissolve, when life finally gets easier. But Napoleon Hill taught something radically different. He studied thousands of individuals who achieved extraordinary success and sustained inner peace, and he found a pattern. The happiest people weren't those with the easiest lives. They were those who built emotional fortresses that external chaos couldn't penetrate. Think about this for a moment. Right now, somewhere in the world, two people are facing identical crises. Same financial pressure, same relationship struggles, same health challenges. One of them is drowning in misery, paralyzed by circumstances. The other is navigating the storm with remarkable serenity. What separates them isn't luck, it isn't genetics. It's something Napoleon Hill called emotional discipline, the conscious choice to command your internal state regardless of external conditions. Most people approach happiness backward. They wait for the storm to pass before they allow themselves to feel peace. They postpone joy until life cooperates. But here's the truth that will change everything. Difficult days aren't obstacles to happiness. They're the proving ground where real happiness is forged. Napoleon Hill understood that the muscle of contentment only grows under the weight of adversity. You weren't born to be a hostage. Not to the weather, not to the news cycle, not to other people's moods, and certainly not to circumstances beyond your control. You were designed with the capacity to generate your own internal atmosphere, but this capacity lies dormant in most people because they've never trained it. They've never been taught that emotional discipline is something you build, practice, and strengthen daily. The question that will define your next 24 hours is brutally simple. Who is going to control your emotional state today, you or your circumstances? When life squeezes you, when pressure builds, when disappointment arrives uninvited, your default programming kicks in. For most people, that programming leads straight to victimhood. The mind searches for pity, for someone to blame, for reasons why life is unfair. But Napoleon Hill taught a different response entirely. Pain is not a sentence, it's a signal. It's an alarm system alerting you that something requires adjustment. The problem is that most people misinterpret the signal. They think pain means stop, retreat, protect yourself. But emotional discipline teaches you to read pain differently. It says, adjust your course, choose your response, and keep moving forward. This is where the majority fail. They wait to feel motivated before they act. But those who master emotional discipline do the opposite. They act first and the feeling follows. You don't need the world to become calm before you find peace. You need to construct peace internally so you can traverse any external world. This is the foundation of what Napoleon Hill called the architecture of happiness. It's not built on favorable conditions, it's built on unwavering principles that hold steady when everything else shakes. Let me be direct with you. If you're waiting for life to improve before you decide to be happy, you'll wait forever. Happiness is not a reward for good circumstances. It's a practice you commit to regardless of circumstances. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people didn't stumble into contentment. They engineered it through specific mental habits, daily rituals, and emotional disciplines that most people never discover. There are days when joy feels like a foreign language. Days when getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. Days when the weight of existence itself seems unbearable. These are not the days to abandon your emotional discipline. These are precisely the days that separate the average from the unstoppable. Napoleon Hill taught that character isn't revealed in comfort. it's revealed in crisis. And happiness, real, unshakable happiness, is built in the darkness, without applause, without immediate reward. Here's what changes everything. The moment you install high standards for your mental and emotional state, you rise above the chaos, not because life becomes fair, but because you've trained your mind to remain on its axis regardless of what comes. This is what warriors do, this is what leaders do, and this is what you're going to learn to do through the system Napoleon Hill developed. The instant you permit someone else's actions to define your joy, you hand over the key to your soul. Take it back. Your internal territory belongs to you. You decide what enters, what grows, and what must be removed. Napoleon Hill understood that liberation begins when you stop feeding pain with repeated stories of victimhood. Talk less about what wounded you. Talk more about what you're building. Exchange drama for direction. Your mind follows your dominant voice. Make that voice a command. Try this starting tomorrow morning. Say these words with conviction the moment you wake up. Today I choose strength. Today I choose joy. Today I rise, no matter what happens. Repeat it until your spirit obeys. Repeat it until your attitude becomes unbreakable. The world is heavy, but you are heavier. You were forged for this exact moment. Remember what Napoleon Hill taught: life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. Happiness is the product of deliberate mental conditioning. It requires discipline, effort, sustained vision, and daily practice. When you practice, especially when it hurts, when nobody's watching, when results seem impossibly distant, something silent matures within you. One day you realize that happiness wasn't something you chased. It became something you are. It's not discovered by accident. It's constructed by intention. The truth is harsh, but it will set you free. If you wait to feel good before doing what's right, you've already lost. Discipline precedes correct emotion. It's in the repetition, in the simple, in the mundane tasks that your mind learns new pathways. While ordinary people measure the value of their day by convenience, extraordinary people measure it by coherence. They don't control the external wind, but they master the internal one. And by mastering the internal, they redesign the external. When the world pushes you down, and it will push, your default pattern will speak louder than your motivation. Motivation fluctuates wildly. Habit sustains. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted on training your rituals like an athlete trains muscles. Routine isn't a prison, it's the railroad track of freedom. Those who master their beginnings master their endings. Begin with breath, with silence, with the right words, with movement, with vision. Those who don't define the tone of their morning outsource their vibration to chaos. You don't need permission to be happy, you need structure. Structure your focus, less dispersion, more intention. Structure your body, daily movement, clean energy. Structure your attention, protect what you see, what you hear, what you repeat. Attention is wealth. Those who control it multiply results. Disable notifications that hijack your mind. Open spaces that elevate you. If the environment is polluted, no swimmer crosses the sea. There's a neglected secret Napoleon Hill discovered through decades of research. What you observe, you dominate. What you avoid dominates you. Observe fear without kneeling to it. Feel sadness without drowning in it. Translate every emotion into a task. Ask yourself constantly, what is the next step that honors my purpose? The mind loves clear orders. Deliver clear orders. Without clarity, it drags you through old labyrinths. With clarity, it carries you through new corridors. And when you fail, because you will fail, treat the fall as a lesson, not as your identity. Failure doesn't define who you are. It reveals where adjustment is needed. Error under discipline becomes leverage. Error under self-pity becomes an anchor. Choose the leverage. Napoleon Hill studied countless individuals who failed spectacularly before they succeeded remarkably. The difference wasn't talent. It was their interpretation of failure. Comment here. I act first, the feeling comes after. This is the password of those who build resistant joy, the kind that doesn't shatter at the first impact. Gradually, you'll perceive that you don't need grand transformations to feel peace. You need small correct actions repeated with conviction. Drinking water when the body craves escape. Silencing yourself for 5 minutes when the mind craves screaming. Doing the workout when your mood demands bed. These simple gestures reprogram your factory settings. When the storm arrives, and storms always arrive, your system will already know the path back to center. This is what Napoleon Hill called emotional muscle memory. You build it in calm so you can access it in chaos. Finally, remember this: the world will always have noise, urgency, and opinions. Your task is to build a place inside where no external noise can dictate your posture. When that place becomes real, happiness stops being a visitor and becomes a resident. And the world that once trampled you begins to respect you because it understands you found something that even pain cannot purchase: inner dominion. You need to comprehend that happiness is not a destination. It's constant training, and that training begins before the sun rises. Each morning is a silent test, an invisible battlefield where few win because almost nobody realizes they're fighting. The first voice you hear upon waking defines your state. Either you give the command, or you'll be commanded by what remained from yesterday. The undirected mind repeats old patterns automatically, but the trained mind creates the day intentionally. Rise like someone assuming a mission. Before looking at your phone, look inward. Breathe deeply. Declare to yourself, "Today I lead my internal world." This simple act is a mental shield. It's your way of saying, "I will not be dragged by chance." Because if you don't construct your focus, the world will occupy it with distraction. And distraction is the most dangerous drug of the modern mind. It seems light, but it steals entire years. Happiness, when built consciously, becomes your emotional armor. It's not that problems disappear, it's that you change how you perceive them. The common person waits for calm waters. The awakened person creates center, and the center is the point where no storm can reach. Training yourself to remain serene while everything shakes is the greatest act of strength that exists, and serenity doesn't come from ignoring chaos. It comes from understanding that chaos is temporary while your purpose is permanent. If this content inspires you to keep growing, show that you're on the path. Like this video and subscribe now to the Spoken Word Society channel. Every action of support strengthens the movement of people who are learning to master their own minds. There are days when the weight seems unbearable, days when silence screams and the desire to disappear disguises itself as exhaustion. But it's exactly there that you discover who you are. Happiness is not the absence of pain, it's the courage to continue despite it. Pain is the gymnasium of the soul, and each emotional repetition increases your capacity to endure and transform. When pain arrives, it comes with a question. Are you going to break or are you going to grow? Answer with attitude. Choose growth. Transform every difficulty into a step. If fear comes, use it as a compass. It always points toward your next evolution. The mind that flees from pain flees from power. The mind that faces pain discovers gold. The difference between those who win and those who quit isn't physical strength. It's the decision to continue when nothing seems to make sense. At this point, the world owes you nothing. You're the one who owes yourself your best. Don't wait for applause or motivation. Happiness is the fruit of consistency, not applause. It's born from invisible work, the work you do when nobody's watching, when the body begs for bed but the spirit demands action. This silent dedication is what molds true peace, the peace of knowing you're reliable to yourself. The most unhappy human being is the one who betrays themselves daily. Believe this, every time you fulfill what you promised yourself, even when exhausted, a part of your soul strengthens. That's happiness under construction. It's the brick that sustains the house of self-confidence. It's not about feeling good always. It's about feeling proud of who you're becoming. Comment here. I respect myself when I act, even when tired. This is the mark of someone leaving chaos behind to enter discipline. And remember, happiness isn't euphoria. It's tranquility of spirit. It's not living with a smile. It's living with meaning. When meaning is clear, weight becomes bearable. When purpose is strong, pain becomes fuel. And when you understand that each challenge is an invitation to expansion, Life stops being your enemy and becomes your instructor. Everything that tests you prepares you. So in moments when the ground seems to disappear, breathe. Pain didn't come to punish you. It came to refine you. No diamond forms in comfort. No warrior is forged in tranquility. Real happiness is the result of self-mastery. And self-mastery is born when you stop reacting and start responding. You don't control the wind, but you can adjust the sail. And those who learn to adjust always arrive. Emotional control is silent training. Nobody applauds when you choose to stay calm in the middle of chaos. But it's in that hour that the internal empire is built. While the world screams, the wise person breathes. While the weak person blames, the strong person analyzes. Emotional maturity is the bridge between pain and peace. And each day you cross that bridge, a new level of consciousness reveals itself. Happiness is not the prize for winning. It's the tool that allows you to keep fighting. Most people believe they must first conquer something to then feel good. But those who understand the power of the mind reverse the order. They feel good first, and because of that, they conquer more. True joy is the fuel of progress. When the mind vibrates at the right frequency, the body obeys, ideas flow, and the world reorganizes itself around you. Life will continue testing your balance, and it's exactly because of this that you need to train emotional constancy. Stop waiting for conditions to become ideal. Conditions will never be ideal, they are what they are. What changes is the meaning you assign to them. Napoleon Hill taught that happiness doesn't depend on the scenery, but on your command. It's a choice you make, not an automatic reaction. Every morning in every situation, there exists a decision interval between the stimulus and your response. It's in that interval where your strength lives. This is the space Napoleon Hill called the gap of power. In that microsecond between what happens to you and how you respond, your entire destiny is written. Most people never discover this gap exists. They react instantly, automatically, unconsciously. Their emotions control them like puppets on strings. But here's what Napoleon Hill discovered. You can expand that gap. You can train yourself to pause, to observe, to choose. This is the first pillar of the emotional discipline architecture, mental command. It's the ability to intercept your automatic thoughts and replace them with intentional ones. It sounds simple, but it's the most difficult skill you'll ever master. Because your mind has been running on autopilot for years, maybe decades. Think of your mind as a radio constantly scanning stations. Left untrained, it tunes into whatever frequency is strongest, usually fear, worry, or complaint. Mental command means becoming the DJ of your own consciousness. You decide what plays. You control the volume. You switch channels when negativity dominates. Napoleon Hill taught specific techniques for this, and they work if you practice them with the same dedication an athlete practices their sport. The first technique is thought interruption. The moment you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, and you will catch yourself if you're paying attention, you physically interrupt the pattern. Napoleon Hill recommended a simple gesture. Snap your fingers, slap your thigh, or say stop out loud. It sounds almost childish, but it works because it creates a pattern break. Your brain needs a shock to exit the negative loop it's trapped in. After the interruption, you immediately replace the thought. This is crucial. You can't just create empty space in your mind. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you don't consciously insert a new thought, the old one returns within seconds. Napoleon Hill taught people to prepare replacement thoughts in advance, affirmations, truths, or focus statements they could deploy instantly. Not generic positive thinking, but specific, powerful declarations. For example, when the thought arrives, "This is too hard, I can't do this," you interrupt it and immediately replace it with, "This is challenging, which means I'm growing." See the difference? You're not denying reality, you're reframing it. You're taking the same fact and assigning it a meaning that empowers you rather than diminishes you. This is mental command in action. The second technique Napoleon Hill taught is voice calibration. Most people don't realize they have an internal narrator speaking constantly, a voice that comments on everything, judges everything, predicts everything. For most people, this voice is their worst enemy. It criticizes harshly. It predicts failure. It replays embarrassments from years ago. Napoleon Hill understood that you cannot silence this voice, but you can retrain it. Start listening to how you speak to yourself. Would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself? Would you speak to a child the way your internal voice speaks to you? If the answer is no, then you're committing violence against your own spirit. Voice calibration means consciously choosing the tone, the words, and the message of your internal narrator. When you fail at something, does your voice say, "You're worthless, you always mess up," or does it say, "That didn't work, let's adjust and try again"? The content is radically different, and so is the outcome. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people had internal voices that coached them like mentors, while struggling people had internal voices that abused them like tyrants. The difference in their external results was simply a reflection of that internal dialogue. Practice this today. When something goes wrong, and something will go wrong, pause and listen to your internal response. Then consciously rewrite it. Make your internal voice sound like someone who believes in you, someone who sees potential in you, someone who knows you're capable of more. Do this enough times and eventually that becomes your default voice. That's when mental command becomes automatic. The third technique is attention redirection. Your mind will wander. That's not a flaw, that's how minds work. But where your mind wanders determines the quality of your emotional state. Napoleon Hill taught that attention is like a spotlight. Whatever you shine it on becomes illuminated and magnified in your experience. Shine it on problems, and problems grow. Shine it on possibilities, and possibilities expand. Most people have never trained their attention. They allow it to be captured by whatever is loudest, brightest, or most threatening. Their attention bounces around like a pinball, completely at the mercy of external stimuli. This is why they feel so exhausted. Managing attention is exhausting when you've never practiced it, but Napoleon Hill taught that with training, directing your attention becomes effortless, almost automatic. Here's a practical drill. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit quietly and focus your attention on your breath. Just your breath. Notice when your mind wanders, because it will wander within seconds. When it does, gently bring it back to your breath. No judgment, no frustration, just redirect. Do this daily, and you're building the muscle of attention redirection. This 5-minute drill will transform how you handle difficult days more than any motivational speech ever could. Because here's what happens. When a difficult situation arrives and your mind wants to spiral into catastrophe, you'll have the trained ability to redirect it. You'll catch yourself thinking, everything is falling apart, and you'll redirect to, this is one challenge and I have options. That redirection is the difference between drowning and swimming. It's the difference between panic and peace. Mental command, this first pillar of Napoleon Hill's system, is not about positive thinking. It's about conscious thinking. It's about being the authority in your own mind rather than the victim of whatever thought happens to pass through. Most people are passengers in their own consciousness. Mental command makes you the driver. But here's the truth Napoleon Hill never sugarcoated. This is difficult work. Your mind will resist. For years it's been running wild, thinking whatever it wants, dwelling on whatever grabs its attention. Now you're trying to discipline it, and it will fight back like a wild horse being broken. There will be days you feel like you're making no progress. Days when negative thoughts overwhelm you despite your best efforts. This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the training. Napoleon Hill studied people who mastered their minds, and every single one of them reported the same struggle. The difference between those who succeeded and those who gave up was simple. The successful ones kept practicing even when they felt like failures. They understood that mastery is built in repetition, not in perfection. You're not aiming for a mind that never has negative thoughts. You're aiming for a mind that recognizes negative thoughts quickly and redirects them efficiently. Speed of recognition and speed of redirection. That's the goal. At first, you might catch a negative thought spiral after 10 minutes of dwelling, then after 5 minutes, then after 1 minute, then after 10 seconds. Eventually, you catch it instantly and redirect before it takes root. This is the progression Napoleon Hill observed in everyone who mastered mental command. And the remarkable thing is this: As your speed improves, your emotional state stabilizes. You stop having those crushing days where you feel completely overwhelmed because you're catching the thoughts that create overwhelm before they multiply. You're managing your mental environment the way a gardener manages a garden, pulling weeds when they're small before they take over. If you're perceiving that emotional discipline is a skill you can actually develop, show your commitment. Like this video and subscribe to the Spoken Word Society channel. Every action you take reinforces the neural pathway of intentional choice over automatic reaction. Now, mental command is powerful, but it's only the first pillar. Napoleon Hill discovered that you cannot sustain mental command through willpower alone. Willpower is a finite resource. It depletes throughout the day. By evening, your willpower is exhausted, and that's when your worst patterns return. This is why so many people start the day with great intentions and end it feeling defeated. Napoleon Hill's solution was the second pillar, stability anchors. These are external structures and rituals that hold you steady when your internal willpower weakens. Think of them as the scaffolding around a building under construction. The building, your emotional discipline, isn't strong enough yet to stand on its own. The scaffolding supports it until it is. Stability anchors are non-negotiable routines you install in your daily life that maintain your emotional baseline regardless of how you feel. Notice that phrase, regardless of how you feel. This is key. These aren't rituals you do when you feel motivated. They're rituals you do especially when you don't feel motivated, because that's when you need them most. Napoleon Hill identified several categories of stability anchors, and the most powerful is the morning protocol. How you begin your day sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. Most people begin chaotically, hitting snooze multiple times, grabbing their phone immediately, flooding their mind with notifications, news, and other people's agendas before they've even established their own. They're setting themselves up for emotional instability from the first moment of consciousness. The morning protocol Napoleon Hill taught is remarkably simple, but it must be executed consistently. First, you wake at the same time every day. Not when you feel like it. Not when you've had enough sleep. The same time. This trains your body's circadian rhythm and creates biological stability. Second, you do not touch your phone for the first 30 minutes. Your mind needs time to orient itself before it's bombarded with external input. Third, you move your body. It doesn't need to be intense exercise, though that's beneficial. It can be simple stretching, walking, or basic movements. The point is to connect your consciousness with your physical form. Most people live entirely in their heads, disconnected from their bodies. This disconnection makes emotional regulation nearly impossible. Movement reconnects you. Fourth, you feed your mind intentionally. Read something that elevates you. Listen to something that strengthens you. Or sit in silence and simply breathe with awareness. Napoleon Hill emphasized that the content you consume in the first hour of your day is like the foundation of a building. Everything else that day will be built on top of it. If the foundation is anxiety and negativity, the entire structure will be unstable. Fifth, you declare your intention for the day. Not goals, intention. Goals are outcomes you want to achieve. Intention is the state of being you commit to maintaining. Napoleon Hill taught people to say something like, "Today I choose to respond with wisdom rather than react with emotion. Today I remain centered regardless of circumstances." This declaration programs your subconscious before the chaos of the day begins. This morning protocol takes 30 to 45 minutes maximum. Most people claim they don't have time for it, but Napoleon Hill would ask them, how much time do you spend scrolling through your phone? How much time do you waste in the fog of poor decisions caused by not having this protocol? The truth is, you don't have time not to do this. Every minute invested in your morning protocol saves hours of emotional damage control later. The second category of stability anchors is environmental design. Your physical environment affects your emotional state more than you realize. Napoleon Hill observed that people struggling with emotional control almost always had chaotic environments, cluttered spaces, disorganized systems, no clear boundaries. Your external environment is a mirror of your internal state, and it also shapes your internal state. Start with your immediate environment. Is your bedroom a sanctuary or a storage unit? Is your workspace organized or overwhelming? Do you have a designated place for everything, or is everything scattered? Napoleon Hill taught that you cannot have mental clarity in physical chaos. The act of organizing your space is actually an act of organizing your mind. But environmental design goes deeper than physical organization. It includes the people you allow into your space. Napoleon Hill was direct about this. Toxic people will sabotage your emotional discipline no matter how strong you are. You cannot build stability while surrounded by people who drain your energy, criticize your growth, or pull you back into old patterns. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone in your life. It means establishing clear boundaries about what you will and won't accept. It also includes your information environment. What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? Napoleon Hill lived in an era before social media, but his principle applies even more today: garbage in, garbage out. If you're consuming content that makes you anxious, angry, or discouraged, you're actively working against your own emotional discipline. You're poisoning your mental environment and then wondering why you feel terrible. The third category of stability anchors is physical maintenance. Napoleon Hill taught that your body and mind are not separate. They're one integrated system. When your body is neglected, poor sleep, poor nutrition, no exercise, your emotional discipline collapses. You simply cannot maintain mental strength in a deteriorating physical vehicle. This isn't about perfection. It's about baseline maintenance. Sleep 7 to 8 hours consistently. Eat food that nourishes rather than numbs. Move your body daily in some form. Hydrate adequately. These sound basic because they are basic, but basic doesn't mean optional. These are the fundamentals that make everything else possible. Napoleon Hill watched countless people try to build success, happiness, and discipline while running on 4 hours of sleep and surviving on processed food. It never worked. The mind can override the body temporarily through sheer willpower, but eventually, biology wins. If you're serious about emotional discipline on difficult days, you must take physical maintenance seriously. Comment here. My body supports my mind, and my mind directs my body. This is the recognition that you're working with an integrated system, not battling separate parts. The final category of stability anchors is accountability systems. Napoleon Hill discovered that private commitments are easy to break. Public commitments, or at least commitments witnessed by others, are significantly harder to abandon. This is why he encouraged people to find accountability partners, mentors, or communities aligned with their growth. An accountability system doesn't mean someone nagging you. It means having structure that makes your commitments visible. It could be a journal where you track your daily practices. It could be a friend you check in with weekly. It could be a community where you share your progress. The specific form matters less than the function, making your invisible internal work visible and measured. Napoleon Hill taught that what gets measured gets managed. When you track your emotional discipline practices, your morning protocol completion, your thought interruptions, your attention redirects, you create data. That data shows you patterns. It reveals when you're strong and when you're vulnerable. It transforms vague intentions into concrete practices. These stability anchors, morning protocol, environmental design, physical maintenance, and accountability systems, form the scaffolding that supports your mental command. Together, they create a structure that holds you steady when difficult days arrive. Because difficult days will arrive. The question is whether you'll be prepared or caught off guard. Most people face difficult days with no structure whatsoever. They're entirely dependent on their mood and willpower in that moment. Napoleon Hill taught a different approach. Prepare the structure in advance so that when the difficult day comes, the structure carries you through. You don't need to be strong in that moment because your systems are strong. This is the genius of the stability anchors. They remove the burden from your moment-to-moment willpower and transfer it to your consistent systems. You're not relying on motivation. You're relying on ritual, and ritual done consistently becomes more powerful than any temporary motivation could ever be. But commanding your mind and anchoring your stability through structure, these two pillars are essential. but they're not complete. Napoleon Hill discovered a third element that separates those who merely survive difficult days from those who actually transform because of them. That third pillar is what makes emotional discipline not just a defensive tool, but an offensive weapon. And that's where the real power emerges, in your ability to not just endure difficulty, but to alchemize it into strength. We'll explore that transformation next, but first understand this: mental command and stability. Anchors are practices you must begin immediately, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because the difficult day you're preparing for might arrive before you finish watching this video. And when it does, you want these systems already in place, already functioning, already protecting you. The third pillar of Napoleon Hill's emotional discipline architecture is where everything transforms. It's called the Alchemy of Meaning, and it's the difference between someone who endures pain and someone who evolves because of it. This is the skill that turns your darkest days into your greatest teachers. Most people never discover this level exists, which is why they remain trapped in cycles of suffering long after the original difficulty has passed. Here's what Napoleon Hill understood that most people miss. The event itself is neutral. A job loss is just a job loss. A relationship ending is just a relationship ending. A financial setback is just numbers changing. The event has no inherent meaning. You assign the meaning, and the meaning you assign determines whether that event destroys you or develops you. The alchemy of meaning is the conscious practice of extracting value from every experience, especially painful ones. It's not about pretending pain doesn't exist or minimizing real difficulty. It's about refusing to let difficulty be meaningless. Napoleon Hill taught that meaningless suffering is the only true tragedy. When you suffer without learning, without growing, without extracting wisdom, you've wasted the pain, and wasted pain is the greatest waste there is. Think about the most difficult period of your life. Maybe it's happening right now. Maybe it happened years ago. In that moment, it felt like pure destruction. But looking back now, can you see what it taught you? Can you see how it revealed strength you didn't know you had? Can you see how it clarified what truly matters? That's the alchemy of meaning working in retrospect. But Napoleon Hill taught people to do this in real time, not years later. The first practice of the alchemy of meaning is the question shift. When difficulty arrives, your automatic question is usually, "Why is this happening to me?" That question leads nowhere useful. It creates a victim mentality and generates no actionable insights. Napoleon Hill taught a different question. What is this teaching me? That single word change, from why to what, transforms everything. What is this teaching me? Forces your brain into solution mode instead of victim mode. It assumes the difficulty has value even if you can't see it yet. It directs your attention toward growth rather than grievance. And here's the remarkable thing. Your brain will always answer whatever question you ask it. Ask why me, and it will generate a list of reasons you're unlucky or cursed. Ask, what is this teaching me? And it will start identifying lessons and opportunities. This isn't positive thinking. This is strategic thinking. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people asked different questions than unsuccessful people when facing the same challenges. The external circumstances were identical. The internal questions were completely different, and those different questions led to completely different outcomes. The second practice is pain translation. Every emotion is energy, and energy can be directed. Most people let their emotional energy scatter randomly or turn inward destructively. Napoleon Hill taught people to translate emotional energy into productive action. When you feel fear, translate it into preparation. When you feel anger, translate it into focused work. When you feel sadness, translate it into deep reflection. Pain translation requires a simple but powerful process. First, you acknowledge the emotion without judgment. I feel afraid right now. Second, you accept that the emotion is providing energy. This fear is giving me heightened alertness and energy. Third, you consciously direct that energy toward useful action. I will use this energy to prepare thoroughly for what's ahead. See what happened there? The fear didn't disappear, but it stopped being destructive. It became fuel, Napoleon Hill taught that emotions are like water. They can drown you, or you can channel them to power mills and generate electricity. The water itself isn't good or bad. What matters is whether you let it flood randomly or direct it intentionally. This is why Napoleon Hill said that the most successful people weren't those who never felt fear, anger, or sadness. They were the people who became experts at translating those emotions into constructive force. They felt everything fully, but expressed it strategically. While average people were paralyzed by their emotions, exceptional people were powered by them. The third practice of the alchemy of meaning is adversity reframing. This is where you consciously rewrite the narrative of your difficult experience while you're still in it. Most people create disempowering narratives. This always happens to me. Nothing ever works out. I'm cursed. These narratives become self-fulfilling prophecies. Napoleon Hill taught people to create empowering narratives instead. This is preparing me for something greater. This is removing what doesn't serve me. This is training I'll need later. The key is that both narratives could be true. There's no objective narrator declaring which story is correct. You get to choose, and the story you choose determines the person you become. Napoleon Hill observed people facing bankruptcy who told themselves, "I'm learning what not to do so I can build something unshakable next time." He also observed people facing the same bankruptcy who told themselves, "I'm a failure who will never recover." 10 years later, the first group had rebuilt. The second group was still stuck. Same event, different narrative, different outcome. That's the power of adversity reframing. You're not denying that the difficulty is real. You're refusing to let the difficulty write your identity. You're maintaining authorship of your own story even when circumstances are trying to dictate the plot. The fourth practice is comparative resilience. Napoleon Hill discovered this by studying how people respond to truly extreme adversity. When your difficulty seems overwhelming, Napoleon Hill would have you do something specific. Find someone who faced something worse and observe how they responded. Not to minimize your pain, but to expand your sense of what's possible. History is filled with people who endured unimaginable difficulty and not only survived but thrived. People who lost everything and rebuilt. People who faced circumstances that would have destroyed most people, yet they found a way forward. Napoleon Hill taught that studying these examples doesn't make your pain less real. It proves that the human spirit has nearly unlimited capacity for resilience when it decides to access it. When you practice comparative resilience, you're not comparing your pain to others to judge whose is worse. You're studying the strategies that work when everything falls apart. You're learning from those who already walked through fire and emerged stronger. This practice builds what Napoleon Hill called evidence-based hope, not naive optimism, but realistic confidence based on documented examples of human resilience. The fifth and most powerful practice of the alchemy of meaning is future self-dialogue. This is where you mentally step into your future self who has already overcome this difficulty and gotten back to coach your present self through it. Napoleon Hill taught people to ask, "What would the version of me who successfully navigated this tell me right now?" This creates psychological distance from your immediate emotional reaction while maintaining personal relevance. You're not asking what someone else would do. You're accessing the wisdom of your own future self. And remarkably, when you ask this question sincerely, answers come. Your present self knows more than it thinks it knows. Your future self is already inside you, waiting to be consulted. Try this right now with whatever difficulty you're facing. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself 1 year from now having successfully moved through this challenge. What does that future version of you know that present you needs to remember? What would future you tell present you to focus on? What would future you say matters? And what would future you say doesn't matter? The answers that arise are usually profound because they're coming from your deepest wisdom, not your surface fear. These 5 practices, question shift, pain translation, adversity reframing, comparative resilience, and future self-dialogue, form the complete system of the alchemy of meaning. Together, they ensure that no difficulty is ever wasted. Every challenge becomes data. Every setback becomes education. Every painful moment becomes raw material for building something stronger. If you're recognizing that emotional discipline is actually a complete system, not just random positive thinking, show your support. Like this video and subscribe to the Spoken Word Society channel. You're part of a community that's learning to transform difficulty into advantage. Now here's where Napoleon Hill's 3 pillars integrate into a complete protocol. Mental command gives you control over your thoughts. Stability, anchors give you structure that holds you steady. And the alchemy of meaning gives you the ability to extract value from everything that happens. When these 3 work together, you become emotionally unbreakable. Let's walk through how this looks on an actual difficult day. You wake up to devastating news, maybe a financial crisis, a relationship betrayal, a health diagnosis. Whatever your specific difficult day contains, your immediate reaction is panic, fear, anger. That's normal. That's human. But here's where the 3 pillars change everything. First, mental command kicks in. You recognize the panic rising. You apply thought interruption. Maybe you physically stop and take 3 deep breaths. You catch yourself starting to spiral into catastrophic thinking. Everything is ruined, I can't handle this. You interrupt that thought and replace it with something more accurate. This is a serious challenge, and I have resources to address it. Notice you're not pretending the problem doesn't exist. You're not coating it in false positivity. You're simply refusing to let your automatic fear-based thoughts run wild. You're steering the narrative back toward truth and capability. This is mental command protecting you from the first wave of destructive thinking. Second, your stability anchors support you. Because you've been doing your morning protocol consistently, your baseline emotional state is already more stable than it would be otherwise. Because you've designed your environment well, you have a space where you can think clearly instead of being triggered by chaos. Because you've maintained your physical health, your body has the resilience to handle stress instead of collapsing under it. Because you have accountability systems, you're not facing this alone. You have people or practices to turn to. See what happened? You didn't have to build these supports in the moment of crisis. They were already there, already functioning, already holding you. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted on building stability anchors before you need them. In the moment of crisis, you don't have the clarity or energy to build structure. You need the structure already built, so it can catch you when you fall. Third, the alchemy of meaning activates. After the initial shock settles and your mental command has stabilized your thoughts, you begin asking the transformative questions. What is this teaching me? How can I translate this emotional energy into constructive action? What narrative am I choosing about this event? Who has faced worse and how did they respond? What would my future self, who has overcome this, tell me right now? These questions don't eliminate the difficulty. The problem still exists, but they transform your relationship to the problem. Instead of being crushed by it, you're learning from it. Instead of being its victim, you're becoming its student. And that shift, from victim to student, is the difference between suffering that destroys and suffering that develops. This is the complete protocol Napoleon Hill discovered. 3 pillars working in integration: mental command to control the immediate thought response, stability anchors to provide structural support, and the alchemy of meaning to extract value and maintain growth orientation. When these 3 are in place and practiced, difficult days stop being catastrophes and start being catalysts. But here's what Napoleon Hill was completely honest about. This protocol doesn't make difficult days painless. It makes them purposeful. You will still feel pain. You will still experience fear, anger, sadness, and all the emotions that come with genuine difficulty. The difference is that these emotions won't control you anymore. You'll feel them fully, acknowledge them completely, and then channel them intentionally. This is emotional discipline at its highest level. Not the suppression of emotion, but the direction of emotion. Not the denial of difficulty, but the transformation of difficulty. Napoleon Hill taught that the goal isn't to eliminate difficult days from your life. That's impossible. The goal is to become the kind of person who grows stronger through difficult days rather than being diminished by them. Comment here: I transform every difficulty into strength. This declaration is your commitment to practicing the alchemy of meaning, regardless of what life brings. The integration of these three pillars creates what Napoleon Hill called unshakable happiness. Not the fragile happiness that depends on everything going well, the robust happiness that persists because it's built on internal mastery rather than external conditions. This is the happiness that difficult days cannot steal, because it was forged in difficult days. Think about what this means practically. When you've built mental command, installed stability anchors, and practiced the alchemy of meaning consistently, your entire experience of life changes. The same events that would have devastated you before now merely challenge you. The same circumstances that would have stolen your peace before now just test your protocols. You're still in the same world, facing the same difficulties everyone faces, but you're experiencing them completely differently. This is what Napoleon Hill meant when he taught that happiness is an inside job. The external world will always have chaos, injustice, and difficulty. That's the nature of existence. But your internal world can be architected, structured, and fortified so that external chaos cannot penetrate it. You become like a fortress. Storms rage outside, but inside there is shelter, warmth, and peace. The mistake most people make is thinking they need to change their external circumstances before they can be happy. They're waiting for the promotion, the relationship, the financial breakthrough, the resolution of their current problem. But Napoleon Hill observed that people who thought this way never found lasting happiness. Even when they got what they wanted, new problems arrived, and they were right back to being unhappy while waiting for the next external change. The people who achieved lasting happiness did something completely different. They stopped waiting for external circumstances to cooperate and started building internal systems that functioned regardless of external circumstances. They developed mental command so their thoughts served them. They installed stability anchors so their daily structure supported them. They practiced the alchemy of meaning so every experience educated them. And the result was happiness that no circumstance could steal. This is available to you. Not someday. Not when your life gets easier. Right now. Today. With whatever you're facing. The three pillars of Napoleon Hill's emotional discipline architecture work in any circumstance, at any time, for anyone willing to practice them. They're not theoretical concepts. They're practical tools that produce measurable results when applied consistently. But, and this is crucial, they only work if you work them. Napoleon Hill never promised that understanding these principles would change your life. He promised that practicing these principles would change your life. Understanding is passive, practice is active, and emotional discipline is built through action, not through knowledge. So here's what happens next. You have the complete system. You know the three pillars, you understand how they integrate. Now comes the only part that matters, implementation. Will you actually practice thought interruption when negative spirals begin? Will you actually install a morning protocol and follow it consistently? Will you actually ask, what is this teaching me, when difficulty arrives? Or will you simply know about these practices without doing them? Napoleon Hill found that most people chose knowledge over practice. They learned the system, agreed it made sense, and then continued living exactly as they had before. They had the map, but never took the journey. Don't be most people. The information you've received here is worthless unless you activate it through consistent practice. These principles become power only when they become habits. The next 24 hours are your testing ground. Something difficult will happen, maybe minor, maybe major, but something will test you. In that moment, you'll have a choice. React automatically the way you always have, or respond intentionally using the system you've just learned. That choice, made once, won't transform your life, but that choice, made daily for weeks and months, will make you unrecognizable to your former self. Napoleon Hill taught that transformation isn't a single dramatic event. It's the accumulation of small intentional choices compounded over time. You don't become emotionally disciplined in one perfect day. You become emotionally disciplined through 1,000 imperfect days where you kept practicing anyway, where you caught yourself slipping and redirected, where you felt like quitting but continued, where you didn't do it perfectly, But you did it consistently, that's the path. Not perfection, but persistence. Not flawless execution, but faithful practice. And if you walk that path, using the 3 pillars Napoleon Hill discovered, you will arrive at something most people never experience: genuine happiness that remains stable even when life becomes unstable. Unshakable joy, built on unshakable foundations. The kind of internal peace that makes you immune to external chaos. This is what's possible. This is what's waiting. Not in some distant future, but in the daily practice of what you've learned here. The question is simple. Will you practice? Everything else is just words. Practice is where words become reality. Practice is where knowledge becomes power. Practice is where you transform from someone who knows about emotional discipline into someone who lives it. Now we arrive at the moment that separates those who merely understand from those who actually transform. You have the complete system. You know, mental command, stability anchors, and the alchemy of meaning. But Napoleon Hill discovered something critical. Knowing the system and living the system are entirely different experiences. The gap between them is where most people remain stuck forever. Here's the truth that will either liberate you or offend you. Your life up until this moment has been the result of your default emotional patterns. If you're not as happy as you want to be, it's because your emotional patterns have been running on autopilot, reacting instead of responding, triggered instead of centered. This isn't judgment, it's diagnosis. And diagnosis is the first step toward cure. Napoleon Hill taught that you cannot think your way into new emotional patterns. You must act your way into them. This is why he created what he called the implementation protocol, a specific sequence of actions designed to install the 3 pillars into your actual daily life, not just your theoretical understanding. This protocol is what transforms the system from information into transformation. The implementation protocol has 3 phases, each lasting approximately 30 days. Napoleon Hill discovered that 30 days was the minimum time required for a new pattern to begin overriding an old one. Less than 30 days, and the new pattern remains fragile, easily abandoned when difficulty arrives. But 30 days of consistent practice creates genuine neurological change. Your brain physically rewires itself. Phase 1 is called foundation building, and it lasts the first 30 days. In this phase, you focus exclusively on installing your stability anchors. Not all of them at once. That's overwhelming and leads to failure. You start with the single most powerful anchor, the morning protocol. For 30 consecutive days, you will execute the same morning sequence without negotiation, without exception, regardless of how you feel. Here's the exact sequence Napoleon Hill recommended. Wake at the same time every day. Before touching your phone, sit up and take 10 deep conscious breaths. Then speak your daily declaration out loud. Today I command my emotional state. I respond with wisdom. I remain centered regardless of circumstances. Then move your body for at least 10 minutes, stretching, walking, or light exercise. Then consume something that elevates your mind. Read something inspiring. Listen to something strengthening, or sit in intentional silence. That's it. 30 minutes maximum. Sounds simple, right? It is simple. But simple and easy are not the same thing. Napoleon Hill warned that your mind will fight this protocol viciously, especially in the first 2 weeks. You'll have seemingly legitimate reasons to skip it. You'll wake up late, you'll have an emergency. You'll feel too tired. You'll convince yourself that just this once doesn't matter. But Napoleon Hill was absolute about this. If you negotiate with the protocol, you've already lost. The protocol works because it's non-negotiable. Every time you execute the morning protocol, despite not wanting to, you're depositing strength into your emotional bank account. You're proving to yourself that you can override impulse with intention. That proof accumulates. By day 15, the protocol feels less like a battle. By day 30, it feels like home. And that feeling of home, that sense of having a reliable center to return to every morning, becomes the foundation everything else builds upon. During phase 1, you only add other stability anchors once the morning protocol is solid. Don't try to overhaul your entire life simultaneously. Master the morning first. Once that's automatic, add environmental design. Spend one weekend cleaning and organizing your primary spaces. Remove clutter, create order, designate places for everything. Make your environment reflect the internal clarity you're building. Then add physical maintenance. Commit to 7 hours of sleep minimum. Commit to drinking adequate water daily. Commit to 1 serving of vegetables with each meal. Again, these aren't complicated, they're basic. But basic executed consistently creates the platform for advanced. Napoleon Hill observed that people who couldn't maintain basic physical habits never sustained advanced emotional discipline. Your body is the vehicle. If the vehicle is breaking down, the journey fails. Phase 2 is called pattern interruption, and it begins after you've completed 30 days of Phase 1. Now your stability anchors are functioning. You have structural support. You're waking up the same way every day. Your environment supports you. Your body is maintained. Now you're ready to add mental command practices without being overwhelmed. In Phase 2, you install one specific mental command technique, thought interruption. For the next 30 days, your only job is to catch negative thought spirals and interrupt them. You're not trying to eliminate negative thoughts. That's impossible. You're training yourself to recognize them quickly and break the spiral before it takes over. Napoleon Hill recommended carrying a physical object for this. A small stone, a coin, anything you can keep in your pocket. Every time you catch yourself in a negative spiral, you physically touch the object. This creates a pattern interrupt. The touch reminds you, I'm spiraling, I'm going to redirect now. Then you immediately replace the negative thought with a more accurate one. Not a positive fantasy, but a truthful reframe. For example, you catch yourself thinking, I'm so behind, I'll never catch up, I'm failing at everything. You touch your object. Pattern interrupt. Then you reframe. I have multiple priorities competing for my time. I need to focus on the most important one first. I can handle this systematically. See the difference? Same situation, completely different mental approach. Track this. Napoleon Hill insisted on tracking because what gets measured gets managed. At the end of each day, count how many times you caught a spiral and interrupted it. Don't judge the number, just observe it. Most people discover they're catching 5 to 10 spirals per day in the first week. By week 4, they're catching 15 to 20. The number increases not because they're getting more negative, but because they're becoming more aware. Awareness itself is progress. Something remarkable happens during Phase 2. As you practice thought interruption consistently, you start catching spirals earlier and earlier. At first, you catch them after 5 minutes of dwelling, then after 2 minutes, then after 30 seconds. Eventually, you catch them in the first 5 seconds, before they become spirals at all. This speed of recognition is what Napoleon Hill called mental agility, and it's the foundation of all emotional discipline. By the end of Phase 2, you have both structural support through your stability anchors and mental agility through thought interruption. You're no longer at the mercy of your automatic thoughts. You're catching them, evaluating them, and redirecting them. This combination, external structure and internal agility, creates genuine emotional stability. Phase 3 is called meaning making, and it's where everything integrates. This phase also lasts 30 days, but it's where the alchemy of meaning becomes your default operating system. You've spent 60 days building foundation. Now you're ready to transform every experience into growth. In Phase 3, you install the evening review. Every night before sleep, you spend 5 minutes reviewing your day through the lens of the alchemy of meaning. You ask yourself 3 questions. What did today teach me? How did I grow today? What will I do differently tomorrow? These questions force your brain to extract value from every experience, even difficult ones. Napoleon Hill discovered that people who did this evening review consistently experienced a cognitive shift within 30 days. They stopped viewing difficult days as setbacks and started viewing them as data. They stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this preparing me for?" This shift in default questioning changed everything about their emotional experience. The evening review also includes what Napoleon Hill called gratitude mining. Before you close your eyes, you identify 3 specific things from that day that you're genuinely grateful for. Not generic gratitude, I'm grateful for my health, but specific instances. I'm grateful that when I felt overwhelmed this afternoon, I caught the spiral and redirected it. I'm grateful for the conversation with my colleague that gave me a new perspective. I'm grateful that I completed my morning protocol, even though I didn't want to. This practice of gratitude mining rewires your brain's negativity bias. Your brain naturally focuses on threats and problems. That's evolutionary programming designed to keep you alive. But in modern life, that programming creates chronic stress and unhappiness. Gratitude mining manually trains your brain to also notice what's working, what's growing, what's good. Not to deny problems, but to maintain balanced perception. By the end of Phase 3, 90 days total, you've installed the complete system. Your stability anchors are automatic. Your mental command is responsive. Your alchemy of meaning is active. You've gone from having intellectual knowledge to having embodied practice. An embodied practice is what creates lasting change. But here's what Napoleon Hill never sugarcoated. These 90 days are just the beginning. Emotional discipline isn't something you achieve and then maintain passively. It's something you practice actively for the rest of your life. The difference is that after 90 days, the practice becomes significantly easier. It stops feeling like work and starts feeling like who you are. If you've stayed with this message all the way to this point, you're already different from most people. Most people quit when teaching gets practical. They want inspiration without implementation. They want transformation without discipline. But you're still here, which means you're serious. Show that commitment. Like this video and subscribe to the Spoken Word Society channel. You're not just consuming content. You're joining a movement of people who choose mastery over mediocrity. Now let's address the elephant in the room. You might be thinking, 90 days feels long. I need relief now. I'm struggling today. Napoleon Hill heard this constantly, and his response was both compassionate and uncompromising. He would say, you've spent years, maybe decades, building the emotional patterns that are making you unhappy. Those patterns didn't form in a day. They won't dissolve in a day. But they will dissolve if you commit to consistent practice. However, Napoleon Hill also provided what he called emergency protocols for when you're in acute crisis and need immediate stabilization. These aren't replacements for the 90-day system. They're first aid while you build the long-term solution. Here are the 3 emergency protocols he taught. Emergency Protocol 1, the 5-minute reset. When you're overwhelmed and spiraling, stop everything. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit or stand still. Close your eyes. Focus exclusively on your breath. Count each exhale from 1 to 10, then start over. When thoughts intrude, and they will, don't fight them. Just return to counting. 5 minutes. That's it. This doesn't solve your problem, but it interrupts the panic response and gives you enough clarity to think instead of just react. Emergency Protocol 2, the body discharge. Strong emotions create physical tension. That tension, if not released, amplifies the emotion. When you're angry, afraid, or overwhelmed, move your body intensely for 60 seconds. Sprint in place. Do jumping jacks. Shake your entire body vigorously. You're not trying to feel better. You're discharging the physical tension so the emotion can pass through instead of getting trapped. After 60 seconds, you'll notice the emotional intensity has decreased significantly. Emergency Protocol 3. The perspective shift. When you're consumed by a problem and can't see beyond it, do this. Imagine you're observing yourself from across the room. See yourself sitting there, stressed and worried. Now imagine you're a compassionate advisor watching this person. What would you tell them? What do they need to hear? Often, the answer that comes from this perspective is wiser than anything your panicked mind can generate. You're accessing your own wisdom by creating psychological distance. These emergency protocols work. Napoleon Hill saw them work thousands of times, but they're temporary relief, not permanent solution. Use them when you're in crisis, but commit to the 90-day implementation protocol for lasting change. Because here's the truth. You can either spend your life managing emotional emergencies, or you can spend 90 days building emotional immunity. One path is exhausting. The other is liberating. Let's talk about what happens after the 90 days. You've built the system. You're practicing consistently. Your emotional baseline has stabilized. Now what? Napoleon Hill taught that this is when the real magic begins. This is when you stop just surviving difficult days and start thriving because of them. This is when emotional discipline transforms from a practice into an identity. People who complete the 90-day protocol report something consistent. Difficult days still come, but they experience them completely differently. What used to devastate them now just challenges them. What used to steal their peace for weeks now disrupts them for hours. What used to make them question everything now just makes them pause and recalibrate. The external difficulties haven't changed. Their internal response system has transformed. This is unshakable happiness, the promise Napoleon Hill made. Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of resilience. Not the elimination of pain, but the capacity to transform pain into power. Not a life free from storms, but an internal fortress that no storm can penetrate. This is what becomes possible when you commit to the system and practice it faithfully. But Napoleon Hill issued a warning. The world will test your new emotional discipline. Just when you think you've mastered it, life will send something that challenges everything you've built. This isn't punishment, it's progression. Napoleon Hill taught that each new level of mastery attracts a new level of challenge. The universe tests whether your discipline is real or merely theoretical. When that test comes, and it will come, you'll have a choice. You can interpret it as evidence that the system doesn't work and abandon it. Or you can recognize it as exactly what Napoleon Hill said it would be, confirmation that you're ready for the next level. The test isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to graduate you. Those who pass these tests, who maintain their practice even when it feels like it's not working, discover something extraordinary. They break through to a level of emotional stability that most people never believe is possible. They become the person others look at and wonder, how do they stay so calm? How do they maintain that peace? What do they know that I don't? What they know is what you now know. The difference is, they practice it. Comment here, I commit to 90 days of practice. This isn't just a comment, it's a public declaration of your intention. It's you telling yourself and the universe that you're serious. Research shows that public commitments are significantly more likely to be kept than private ones. By commenting this, you're increasing your odds of success. Let's be completely honest about what you're facing. The next 90 days will not be easy. There will be mornings you don't want to do your protocol. There will be days you forget to interrupt your negative spirals. There will be evenings you skip your review because you're too tired. This is guaranteed. You will not execute perfectly. Nobody does. Napoleon Hill himself didn't execute perfectly, and he created the system. But here's what Napoleon Hill learned. Progress doesn't require perfection, it requires persistence. If you miss a morning protocol, you do it the next morning. If you forget to interrupt your spirals, you start catching them again the next day. If you skip an evening review, you resume it the following evening. You don't need a perfect 90 days. You need a committed 90 days, where you keep returning to the practice every time you drift from it. This returning, this getting back on track after getting off track, is actually the most important skill. Napoleon Hill observed that people who succeeded long-term weren't those who never failed. They were those who failed repeatedly but never quit. They fell down and got back up. They drifted and corrected course. They struggled and kept practicing. That's the pattern of mastery. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Your difficult days are not going to stop. That's not how life works. But 90 days from now, if you practice this system faithfully, your relationship to difficult days will have transformed completely. You'll have tools you trust. You'll have structure that supports you. You'll have perspective that grounds you. And most importantly, you'll have proof that you can maintain your center, even when the world is chaos. That proof changes everything, because once you know you can handle difficult days, they lose their power to terrify you. You stop living in fear of the next crisis. You stop needing life to be easy. You become someone who can handle whatever comes, and that capability is more valuable than any external circumstance could ever be. This is the promise. Not that life gets easier, but that you get stronger. Not that difficult days disappear, but that you become capable of navigating them with grace. Not that happiness becomes constant, but that it becomes accessible even in the midst of difficulty. This is what Napoleon Hill discovered. This is what thousands of people who applied his system discovered. And this is what you can discover if you commit to the practice. The system works. The question is, will you work the system? Will you do your morning protocol tomorrow? Will you practice thought interruption next time you spiral? Will you do your evening review before bed tonight? Will you complete the 90 days even when it's hard? These aren't rhetorical questions. These are the actual questions that will determine whether your life changes or stays the same. Everything you need is in this video: the knowledge, the system, the protocol, the tools. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is held back. You have complete access to what Napoleon Hill spent decades discovering and refining. The only variable left is you, your willingness, your commitment, your consistency, your refusal to quit when it gets hard. Napoleon Hill taught that there are two types of people: those who wait for life to change and those who change how they live life. The first group spends decades waiting, hoping, wishing things were different. The second group spends 90 days building discipline and then lives in the freedom that discipline creates. You get to choose which group you belong to, but you must choose. Indecision is just a slow way of choosing the first group, so choose now. Choose to commit to 90 days of practice. Choose to install the morning protocol starting tomorrow. Choose to practice thought interruption starting today. Choose to do your evening review starting tonight. Choose to become the person who maintains happiness even on difficult days. Choose to build the emotional fortress that nothing can breach. Choose transformation over information. Choose practice over theory. Choose yourself. Happiness on difficult days isn't a miracle. It's a construction project that happens one day at a time. Napoleon Hill taught that you become what you practice in silence, when nobody's watching, when results haven't arrived yet. Now you have the complete system. You have the 3 pillars: mental command, stability anchors, and the alchemy of meaning. You have the 90-day implementation protocol. You have the emergency protocols for crisis moments. Everything you need to transform your emotional life is in your hands. What remains is the only thing nobody can do for you: the decision to practice. Comment here one final time: I build my emotional fortress every single day. This is your declaration of commitment. This is your promise to yourself. This is your statement that you refuse to be a hostage to circumstances anymore. And remember this: difficult days didn't come to destroy you. They came to prove that you're far stronger than you ever imagined. Now go and build your unshakable happiness. The next 90 days begin now.